And with that, I'm ready to take your questions.
Secretary General, 2 questions on Afghanistan. First, could you please clarify the current numbers? Last week you said to parliamentarians it was less than 11,000, while a week before that you mentioned 12,000 or less than 12,000. So where are we exactly now? And the second question, which signal is NATO sending to the Taliban when it has been reducing its troop presence in Afghanistan since the beginning of the year, with increasing levels of violence and no truce, no real truce in sight, and no real concessions by the Taliban in the peace talks so far? Thank you.
First of all, I think we have to understand that NATO has adjusted and changed the number of troops in Afghanistan over many, many years. Not so many years ago, we had more than 100,000 troops in a big combat operation. Then after that, we have gradually reduced our presence, and now we are, well, let me say roughly 11,000, but this varies a bit, but roughly 11,000 troops in a train, assist and advise mission. More than half are non-US troops coming from European NATO allies and partner nations. So it has been a gradual reduction, and that has been possible because we have invested so much in training the Afghans. We have enabled the Afghans to protect their own country, and I strongly believe that the best way to stabilize Afghanistan is to train, assist, advise the Afghan security forces so they can be in charge, be responsible for their own country. Not only do we train them, but we also fund them, and allies have committed to provide funding through 2024. Then the main issue is that in the US-Taliban agreement, it is stated that all international troops, also NATO troops, should be out of Afghanistan by the 1st of May. That's the reason why we are now faced with a very clear decision, a very difficult choice to be made, which actually represents a dilemma for all of us. And that is either to stay, because we assess that Taliban is not living up to their part of the agreement, not delivering on their promises, but then of course risk continued fighting, long-term continued military involvement in Afghanistan, or to leave, but then risk jeopardizing the gains we have made in fighting international terrorism and preventing Afghanistan from being a platform for launching attacks against our countries. This will be a hard and difficult decision. There is no way to try to deny that. But my message to allies, when we are going to discuss this tomorrow, but also as we prepare for the upcoming defense ministerial meeting in February, where I expect a final decision to be made on this issue, is that whatever we do, whatever the final conclusion will be, we need to stay coordinated and we need to act in an orderly way. We are extremely grateful for a German commitment to Afghanistan. Germany has been there for many, many years. One of the largest force contributors to our mission in Afghanistan. And Germany does exactly what NATO is aiming at, and that is to help and train the Afghans. You are responsible for the presence in the north. You are a lead nation, framework nation there. And therefore Germany, of course, will be part of this consultation. And I will consult closely with Berlin as we move forward.
For the next question, we go to London. Keir Simmons from NBC.
Thank you very much, Secretary General. Have you had, or could you describe any communication that you have had with President-elect Biden or his transition team, in particular in regard to the decision over Afghanistan? This, of course, is a pivot point in politics in America. And does that make the decision over Afghanistan for America's NATO allies that much more difficult?
I had an excellent phone call with President-elect Joe Biden. We have known each other for a long time, and his background as Vice President, as a former Chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, gives him a lot of experience when it comes to security issues in general and NATO in particular. And I know Joe Biden as a very committed supporter of the cooperation, the bond between North America and Europe and of NATO. I'm looking forward to working with him and also with Kamala Harris, the Vice President-elect, and they have all both expressed strong support to NATO. There is one president at a time in the United States, so now we are working with the current administration. After the transition in January, we are of course working with the incoming Biden administration. We will then work with what is then going to be the Biden administration. In my phone call with President-elect Joe Biden, I underlined the importance of Afghanistan, and I also pointed out the dilemma we face, that of course there is a price if we decide to stay, but there will also be a price if we decide to leave. The price of staying is of course continued military involvement in Afghanistan, price in treasure and in blood. The price of leaving is the risk of jeopardizing the gains we have made. And I think it's better to be honest that there is no easy solution to that dilemma, but I look forward to discussion with foreign ministers tomorrow, and then to continue this, and then also to make the decision with the new Biden administration next year.
So, thank you, Secretary General. My name is Alexia Tassouli. I'm a diplomatic correspondent from Greece. My question is about the developments in Eastern Mediterranean. You have announced that the confliction mechanism was established between Greece and Turkey following your efforts and talks between the two countries. But we have seen escalation instead of de-escalation since the Turkish vessel Oruç Reis stayed in the area, which also included the Greek continental shelf, for months, and Turkey has carried out exercises near Greek islands, demanding their demilitarization. So has NATO fulfilled its mediation role on this issue? Are you satisfied? Has the confliction mechanism worked? What more NATO can do? Thank you.
Also, I continue to be concerned about the situation in the Eastern Mediterranean. And that's also the reason why we continue to work on how can we help to deconflict, how can we help to reduce tensions. I also clearly stated that when the ship Oruç Reis is in port, as it is from today, as far as I have been informed, that helps to reduce tensions and makes it easier to make progress also on deconfliction. I welcome the fact that through the deconfliction mechanism we have established at NATO with support and of course engagement from the two NATO allies involved, Greece and Turkey, we have been able to put in place communication lines which can help to reduce the risks of incidents and accidents, and if they happen, to prevent them from spiraling out of control. We have also been able to cancel some military exercises on the national days of Greece and Turkey. I have put forward proposals on how to further strengthen this mechanism and how to further reduce the risks for incidents and accidents. But of course, we have to find ways that is working for both Greece and Turkey. But I will continue to work on this because for me it is important that NATO as an alliance, when there are differences, disagreements as we now see between Greece and Turkey, that NATO is a platform where we can sit down and in an open way address differences, but also try to find positive steps in the right direction. I also hope that military deconfliction at NATO, where we have seen some important steps in the right direction, can help to pave the way to negotiations addressing the underlying main problem. And this is something Germany is working on, but also some other countries. And NATO, of course, strongly support those efforts. NATO is not part of those negotiations on the underlying problem. What we have been working on is the military deconfliction. And I'm not saying that all problems are solved. I'm not saying that that everything is fine, but and we are still concerned. But I'm saying that NATO has proven an important platform to deconflict and to prevent incidents and accidents, and that's important because we have seen previously in the 80s and 90s that incidents and accidents in the Aegean Sea between Turkey and Greece actually led to casualties, to fatalities, and we must do whatever we can to prevent that from happening again.